Welcome, beloved, to the series Living the Tarot here at Grounded Oracles, where we are pulling the major arcana cards to meditate on them, looking at the Fool's or the hero's journey, and how all these 22 archetypes play out in our lives. So we are almost done. We are on card 20, the Judgment card, and we have one more to follow after. So if you have been following, watching at your leisure, thank you for participating. If you are just coming across this video, know that we have done the major arcana starting from the Fool, and we also did look at all of the minor arcana for a few days too. So I would encourage you to continue pulling the cards, meditating on them, really building a relationship with this, and not just go by what a tarot reader says, right? Make these personal for you. Okay, so I am going to read a little bit about how this fits in with the Fool's journey, read some interpretations, give an affirmation, and sort of tie this all together. So the Judgment card, as we said, is number 20. Thanks to the trials and tribulations the Fool has experienced thus far on his journey, the Fool has been reborn. He has turned away from his ego-driven self, and he has allowed his inner self to shine through. He realizes that joy and love are at the center of life, not fear. He has learned to forgive himself and others. He knows his real self is pure and good. He can see himself clearly for the first time and knows he has decisions to make about his future. He chooses wisely which values to cherish and which ones to throw away. He has discovered his true purpose, and his hesitation vanishes, allowing him to follow his dreams at last. Like a final judgment, there is no room for illusions or fears or false identities. He at last is rising up and answering his soul's calling. That's beautiful, right? And probably in the book that I'm going to be reading an interpretation from, it'll probably discuss the rapture, but in Christian biblical theology, this is about the judgment, right? Hearing that the last call and being raptured up to heaven for being a believer. So it's interesting. It's like rising out of the graves if you have already passed on. It's about the bodies rising all at once with those that are still alive to reunite in heaven. Okay, so now for an interpretation from Holistic Tarot, an integrative approach to using tarot for personal growth. Okay, so this is either fire or water energy, ruled by Pluto. It's about awakening, epiphany, spiritual realization, or rebirth. An angel appears in the sky, sounding a trumpet with a flag, waving the crux emissa quadrata. People in their coffins rise and rejoice at the sight of the angel. Snow-capped mountains are in the background, right? And we have, obviously these are bodies that were dead, that are alive, and they are naked, right? Vulnerability, freedom. Okay. The Judgment card is about spiritual awakening and epiphany. It's about salvation. The seeker's past, no matter how dark, no matter what the seeker has done, is now behind him or her. The card's imagery relates to the last judgment of Christian mythos, or the last day of resurrection per Islamic eschatology, or the theology of humankind's final destiny. In practical applications in a reading, this card can indicate a change in the seeker's personal consciousness, an important realization that will be a game changer for the seeker. An important life lesson will be learned. Events currently happening in the seeker's life will be the catalyst to a personal awakening. There may also be a literal sense of judgment. All evidence has been made available to the seeker, and the seeker has rendered his or her judgment. It does not end here, however. That judgment that the seeker has made is going to compel an important realization or epiphany in the seeker. Upright, this card indicates that the judgment is correct and will bring an awakening or epiphany in the seeker that is spiritually fulfilling. The people depicted on the card rising from coffins could suggest a resurrection. The seeker may have recently transitioned from the end of one critical phase into another, and the experience of that transition and transformation has brought the seeker to a great sense of awakening and understanding. The body of water the coffins float upon calls to mind the lake of fire referenced in both early Egyptian and Christian mythos. It appears in the book of Revelation. It is often associated with either the element of fire or the element of water. There are two schools of thoughts as to the elemental dignities for the Judgment card. One, if the card's ruling celestial body Pluto is associated with Vulcan, the god of fire, then the card is governed by the element of fire. And two, if the card's ruling celestial body Pluto is associated with the astrological sign of Scorpio, then the card is governed by the element of water. The author of this book, who is Benabel Wen, subscribes to associating the Judgment card with water, and thus is interpreting the card yin energy would be construed as being dominant. Again, as the yin is applied, resonates with the yin as applied. Similar to the Magician, and then the Chariot, the cards are yin in spite of the greater outer strength and activism displayed in the cards, because at the core, these cards are about divine knowledge and the reception by the conscious of what is contained in the collective unconscious. Interesting. Beloved, what are your thoughts on that after hearing what that means? Sort of like a call to wake up, a spiritual awakening. So yes, definitely the last day, maybe more is even opposed to the rapture, depending on, you know, what denomination you may belong to. If you belong to a denomination. Going to be different person to person. Okay, this card comes out in a love reading. It could suggest spiritual love. The lover helps the seeker to realize the seeker's greater life priorities. Catharsis. Together there may be trials the couple must overcome, but the relationship will be strengthened because of them. And if this card comes up in a professional development reading, again, depending on the reader and the cards around it, it could imply important lessons will be learned. A realization will enable the seeker to advance forward. And if you are meditating on this card, whether, you know, for one time, several days, if you want to say an affirmation with it, a suggested one is, I reach the right epiphany at the end of this road, and the pain I endure come to reveal its higher spiritual purpose. I reach the right epiphany at the end of this road, and the pain I endure comes to reveal a higher spiritual purpose. That's beautiful. It's really looking at the bigger picture, the spiritual perspective on something that you've gone through, which how many of us really think to do that at first, right? Sometimes that takes a while. We're looking at what we can see, what our senses can feel, right? Well, beloved, again, what are your thoughts on this card after you really look at the Rider Waite on the left, the Arcanum on the right, or whatever version that you have that you are drawn to, right? Does it speak to you about a judgment, about awakening, about a wake-up call, right? How does that make you feel when you see these naked bodies here, right? Like really reveling and seeing the angel, hearing the call, like they're at peace and they're free. Right? How does that make you feel? And how can this card help you with its energies in your current situation? Or how might opening up your eyes to this help you in future situations, drawing upon this energy? Well, beloved, I hope you have a fabulous time meditating on the Judgment card. And again, remember, there's lots of different interpretations out there, and it's going to depend on you, the reader. So enjoy. And we have one more after this with the World card, which will tie up this series, Living the Tarot. So I hope you'll join for the last one. Probably release that in a couple days. And yeah, I hope you have a fabulous time meditating on this card and stay grounded.